Jaya, brother, that was a transformational 3 days, 4 days. And yeah, I'm so grateful for the work that you do and the way that you hold space and yeah, just your essence, like being around your essence, just listening to you speak, let alone like putting aside the medicine, uh, just makes me a better person, makes me sit straighter, makes me listen to myself more, makes me more calm, helps me realize things and faults, and it's the people you spend time with is so important. When did you know? When did you have that something click in your brain and you have that realization that changed your life?
Or to set out on a path or to look deeper at things. In that sense, I was very fortunate. I'm the youngest child of several siblings, and when I was born, my mother was going through kind of a midlife crisis, a spiritual renewal. Pretty soon got divorced, and things happened. And so, in the impressionable years of my life, I was around things not so dissimilar from this. In groups. Like some of my earliest memories were omming, making the sound of om, or having meditation circles in the living room, doing power animal journeys when I was very young. So I think there's a lot to be said about the impressionable years of what we're exposed to. So being exposed to these environments is something I'm really, it's a place I'm really comfortable in. But I guess to really deepen that, it's came back around in my early 20s. And the call was so strong, I left the Western society and I basically haven't gone back.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I've been wondering how old you are. I look at you and I'm like, oh, either he's, you're just so wise for how old you look. Either you're doing something right, or I know you're doing something right already, but you definitely look younger than you are. I believe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So don't feel required to share how old you are, unless you want to. I am curious though.
Yeah, I mean, I started teaching when I was around 23, 24. I started facilitating yoga teacher trainings around the world. My main passion was teaching, facilitating meditation, giving instruction, and immersing and introducing people to Eastern philosophy and topics of non-duality. So I started teaching at a very young age, exposed to things at a very young age. And so when I was teaching in my early 20s, which I was probably very naive, people would always be shocked at how young I am. And it doesn't matter how old I get, people are always shocked at how young I am. But I'm getting more gray hairs now, so hopefully I'm starting to rest into the part of the teachings and maturing. But so I started very young, which is the point. But I'm 36 this week.
Oh, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great number. Nice. Yeah. Would you like to share a little bit of peppermint breathwork?
Sure.
Yeah? Awesome. So we'll just do a couple drops in the hand. This is something I do every single day just to give myself a quick little energy boost and clear the mind a little bit. So we'll just do a little bit of, we'll do 10 breaths through the nose, 10 through the mouth, and 10 through the mouth and nose. And we'll do like pretty heavily upregulated breathing.
Okay.
You can just follow along with my rhythm. Ready? Biggest breath of the day. Hold it on full. Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and squeeze it all up to the head.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love doing those quick little wake me up, pick me
Yeah.
up in a healthy way,
Yeah.
change your state in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, how did you get started? Like, when did you first drink ayahuasca?
I drank ayahuasca in my early 20s when I was young. So I said I was exposed to sort of different elements of spirituality young and impressionable age, like Buddhism and yoga, Vedanta, and energy work, and a lot of New Age concepts and ideals. But as a teenager, very reckless,
Yeah.
doing all of the rebellious things. And in those rebellious things and the recklessness, psychedelics were a big part of it. And back then, and I don't know, when you're young, I think there's a lot more awareness now, a lot more conversation around these things. But back then, dosage, it wasn't such a thing. So many times I had way too much. And I was between the ages of 14 and 17. Several occasions came to places where kids that age shouldn't be. The edges of my mind, complete loss of memory, depersonalization, to the point where I didn't know what my hands were, I didn't know what I was, I didn't know my name, on more than one occasions. So I found that pretty quickly, and I got it drove in me a curiosity to learn more about these things. And I read all the books I could find on LSD, all the books I could find, like the Kool-Aid acid test and Albert Hoffman, Timothy Leary, like that sort of thing, from the beatniks and the beat poets, because I found out pretty quickly that my friends weren't having the same experiences that I were having. They were having a good time, and I was having, I was fighting for my life. I was having universal realizations. I was receiving, voices and beings, and so I got into the study of shamanism because I needed something to chew on, because none of the people around me were having quite the same experiences that I was.
Yeah.
Processing deep things, realizations about myself, my life, my family, my upbringing, things from before my life, things from after my life, confronting death, confronting everything. So for me, somehow the tap has always been turned on of spirituality, spiritual. It's like the magnet towards wanting to find truth, the magnet towards wanting to discover something. I didn't grow up in my mother was in New Age ideals, but I didn't grow up in a religious household. I didn't grow up with any religious or traditional values. So I was very much on my own finding things, but I've always had a propensity towards the sacred. Ever since I was a little kid, that's just my nature. Some people work with their hands, some people work with their minds, some people technical. I'm been a spiritual person in this life. And I think we all are spiritual people in this life. I don't know. But it took several years to kind of admit to myself that, and when I finally did, I moved to India, and the rest is history. And I went to India and South America, wandered around with no shoes for many, many years, and I thought I would just be a Baba living in the hills. I thought I would just be a monk. But here I am with a home and family and children, and life has a way of surprising us, because what the medicine, we call it a medicine, we call it a sacrament, ayahuasca, the plant medicines, what it did for me was show me that spirituality shouldn't be hidden in the ashram or in the monastery or in the mountain or in the cave, but it should be shared, it should be in the world, with family, with community. I think it's really important. And something that I see often, that a lot of lone wolves and lone soldiers and people, lost boys and girls, they come to us and they find traditional values again in a non-denominational way. They find family, they find mother, and they find father, they find community, they find brother and sister, they find their feet on the ground again, and their spirituality becomes grounded in the earth rather than lost somewhere looking in another solar system or in the sky, which I think is really important for a lot of people, especially a lot of young people who are seeking these days.
It's really beautiful, and I can definitely relate to going to the edges of the mind in a very young age, in the teenage years. And personally, for my practice, I know it's been instrumental for me to be holding space and to understand what the person is going through, and to know that they're going to get through it and come through that. And I believe like those experiences for you were so important for you to be able to be the incredible space holder you are today, and to make sure and to know that you're keeping everybody safe, and to understand what they're going through, because you've been to these deep, dark places that are at the edges of your mind where, you know, many people have no business being there, because it is, you know, it's hard to handle. It's
Yeah.
no joke being somewhere so far away and so distant.
Yeah.
So
Well,
thank you for being there.
I'm glad you said it. It's really important to understand our trespasses when we, psychedelics, entheogens, plant medicines, all these things are very popular in the world today, and they're becoming used multidisciplinary for all sorts of things, and microdosing, and everyone from, I get mums and dads to CEOs to barefoot hippies. There's no particular demographic anymore. It's like the cat's out of the bag. Everyone's talking about it. However, there's usually an elephant in the room, which is the mystical state, the trials and tribulations that happen by fire. Because sometimes we can approach these things thinking it's all love and light, and at the right dosage, we can manage things in a good way. But a lot of people find themselves in troubled water, and that is something that's lost in our society, is the navigation and the initiation and the knowledge of how to move through that. And people, like you said, holding space for these things or doing these things without proper elders or traditions or guidance from people who know, they walk in the wilderness. And sometimes people, they come, they drink ayahuasca, and they say, hey, the ayahuasca really told me that I should be working with this medicine. What do I do? My first job and my first response is say, you don't want to do that. It's not what you think it is. There's contractual, karmic things that are embedded that forever shape your destiny, your trajectory. And in order to get through those pacts and places is a lot of hardship. And it's a classical thing. It's the dark night of the soul. It's the trial and tribulation. It's the shamanic initiation. It's not a unique thing, but we tend to romanticize. This is what I want to say. We tend to romanticize it in our society. And the actual ones who go to these places, they say, hey, it's not romantic. I don't recommend it. So the teachers who go through those things, they try to teach sensibly and gently so that you don't have to do that. But it depends on somebody's karma.
Yeah, totally. So how did you start the forest path?
So before we were here, this is from the yoga forest. Mm-hmm. So my wife, we met here in Guatemala. I was teaching yoga with a school, and she was just in the beginning phases of building a center, a permaculture center that involved yoga, volunteering, and things like this. It's like on the side of a cliff in San Marcos, Guatemala, and this was about... this was in 2014 when we brought a group over there, so 11 years ago, and she had already been there building and doing things. It wasn't till another year and a half, 2 years later that we got together. But the yoga forest had several iterations. It ended up revealing itself as a beautiful retreat center, a beautiful place to come, and our clientele changed and things shifted, and we're always managing it, because I think a center like that, it's like a living being, and you have to listen and tend to it. But the land was very, very special to us. We had very particular rock formations where we've made altars, where we've consecrated spaces, where we've done a lot of ceremonies with elders from here, from Guatemala, from Mexico, from Colombia, from different areas, North America. It meant a lot to us. It was our baby. And this retreat center was in business for more than 10 years. And then came the opportunity to move to the lake. And so we sold the retreat center, moved over here, and we wondered, who are we without the retreat center? But we quickly discovered that we're the same, and everyone remembers us the same, and it wasn't about the retreat center. And so from the retreat center, the yoga forest, we continued with the forest path and the forest family to honor those roots of where it kind of began. So the forest path is the extension of our work that started there on that land in San Marcos, and it continues.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing what you do. I've sat many different ceremonies before in many different countries around the world, and what you guys do is very special. It's so well orchestrated, and the space doing it right on the lake and on Lake Atitlan, surrounded by the volcanoes, is an experience in its own, just being here, and to be able to be in the Maloka right on the shore, listening to you guys play your music so well articulated and harmonized, and just incredibly well facilitated, and just the essence of everyone in that room. How did you create that? Like, what came through? When did you decide it was like, okay, like, we got something here? Like,
The ceremony formation.
yeah.
It's had many iterations. I'm a fan of eclecticism, the mixing of genres, fusion. Fusion is all over the world. What we call syncretism. Syncretism without conflict. Sometimes, when you blend too many things together, the flavor is changed and it's not so good. But if you blend them in the right way, you can make a very good dish. And this is how modern world is. So we started the ceremonies more with our teachers in Peru, and more in the Peruvian style. I eventually found my teachers from the Brazilian churches, but honoring both ways, because I am indebted to both ways. So we have a period in the light where there's a study for those who want to study, singing, and we call it like a communal shamanism. There are a lot of places where everybody sits down and one person does the thing and you listen, and they do the work and you receive it. And that's one way, it's very beautiful. But what I learned in Brazil is there's a way to lift everybody up so that we can all do it and we can all learn how to do it together. And there's a laying down of a foundation of the ground for everybody to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet, which I think is very, very important. Because sometimes if I'm the guy and I do everything, then I don't empower anybody to do anything else. And if I'm the guy and I do everything, then I can't subtract myself away. And if I'm the guy and I do everything, I disempower the person from learning what they came there to do. However, both are important. I don't want to belittle one and praise the other. I want to hold both. So there's communal shamanism. So we have the light, we open it up, we study, the community comes, we sing together. And then there's parts where we turn off the light and we encourage people to go deep and to receive their healing and to go into that other space. So over the years, it's become our particular flavor, and a lot of it's based around the design of the hymnals, the songbooks, and just who we are as people. Because when if you do this authentically, for me, I never want to imitate. I want to know who I am through what I'm doing, because that is my spirituality's discovery of what is essential, what is real. And so I have many teachers, but we don't do it exactly like our teachers, because I come from different places, and so there's different flavors of that. There's a lot of from my upbringing with like Zen Buddhism in there. There's non-dual aspects. There's a lot of yoga sensibility. because for me there's not a one size fits all. Sometimes people they need one path, a traditional path, and they need to keep it really simple and steady. For me, I see my life, and it looks like there are many paths, all forking in different directions, but for me, that's one path. It's the same path where many different traditions meet. I was saying this the other night, that we can drink ayahuasca, and ayahuasca can be the teacher. We say it's the teacher's teacher, the master's master. And we can learn from that. But there's also something to be said about the person's sensibility, training, practice, and study, where they come from before that, of what comes through and shines through the mind when the ayahuasca shines the light there. And so to me, I resource myself not just from the jungle, not just from ayahuasca, but on my training from different faiths and disciplines, from the world's wisdom traditions. I think that's really important. It's important for me.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Is there anyone you think this medicine isn't for?
Something one of my teachers said once, Jonathan, he said, this medicine's, you said the word diamond, but this medicine's for everybody, this medicine's for everybody, but not everybody's for this medicine.
Yeah.
And that's one contemplation, and you can get it, you can understand it. However, it's also wise to say that no, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And not everybody needs to have it. I'm not a proponent here saying that ayahuasca is going to cure the world. We need to give it to everyone, put it in the water. I don't think that's responsible at all. Some people are not in the headspace for it. Some people are not looking for that. Some people are looking in a different direction. That's fine. They can look in that direction. To me, there's a sort of inner request that has to come. Unless somebody is called, we say they're called, they want to be there, they ask to be there. You put the drink in their hands, and they have autonomy. They're asking to receive the drink. If somebody doesn't ask for it, that's none of my business. So it's for everybody, but not everybody's for it, and they don't have to be.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Yeah. Well said. Nothing is for everyone. I mean, maybe water. We're 70% water, but yeah, there's no one size fits all prescription. I mean, there's a few things that we all need as sleep and nature and connection. We have basic needs, but yeah, when it comes to medicine and certain things like that, we're all very, very unique, and we work in different ways and need to be presented things in a different way to truly understand. So how many of these do you host, and is there times where like you're doing too much or taking on too much? What do you do to keep yourself protected and clean and cleansed from dealing with all these intense energies and all these people purging in a room and releasing, demons and entities, ancestral trauma and childhood trauma, and that's releasing from their mouth and going up into the room? I mean, I'm very sensitive to energy, and there's been moments during our 3 days where I was like, okay, I was getting a little bit nervous. Someone next to me is throwing up, and like, where's this going? I know that there's a hole in the top of the roof for things to go out, but like, it's still moving in the room first, and I would run to the other side of the room to protect myself and sit straight and breathe and stay in the light. But what are your tactics and techniques?
Yeah, there's a lot of different approaches, a lot of different things there. I've facilitated hundreds of ceremonies and served thousands of glasses to thousands of different people from all different walks of life. I've seen a lot of different things, so I think there's a wisdom in exposing ourselves to great diversity and a lot of different people, a lot of different walks of life. There needs to be a humility in this work, first and foremost, humility in the driver's seat, to not think that I'm the guy doing the thing, but to step back, to see, to watch. There's a seduction there to take things very, very personally, whether it's praise or blame. and how that sits with us, energetically in the room. Like there's, it's kind of like daggers, these little things jumping around. And so for me, there's a marking point where the image that comes to mind is like rain rolling off a rain jacket. Things don't stick. And this is part of our teaching here. It's good to know where you are, know what you're doing, ask very good questions, know who you're sitting with, know what you're drinking, know where it comes from. Everybody should be informed on these basic things and should know how to ask about that. And then the underlying factor is to know who you are. The teaching in many of the mystery schools is to know thyself. And if you don't know thyself or the direction you're going in, then you can get distracted by so many things that can come and get you. But if you know what's in front of you and where you're going, then everything that comes, it can come there. And so one of the teachings we give to people is to find this quality in the center of their chest and to hook there. It's a place of great presence, and it's a place that receives something. And so usually when we get lost, we tussle with our thoughts, with our ideation. We believe the phantoms. It's like when something presents itself to you, it can seduce you and take you somewhere, and then before you know it, you're lost in some alleyway of your mind. But if I'm giving the teachings of attention, of presence, of awareness, of where to find peace and how to breathe in peace and what peace is, because I think a lot of people, they don't know what peace is, a different conversation. And so if they are in that place, then whatever comes, it can come there. So it's like the center of the room, the altar, whatever comes, it can come there. And so we have such a conviction and a confidence that things are welcome and allowed there. They can come and they can get worked out there. Because if we are a little bit unconfident or don't have that conviction of knowing who we are, where it can come, what's welcome and where it can go, then in that uncertainty, all sorts of things come and try to prey on you and push you over and test you and push your buttons. But if I'm there in the center, I say, bring it.
Yeah.
Then there's a clarity. So I work with this clarity. I think it's very, very important. And in that clarity, psychologically, spiritually, it's like rain on a rain jacket. For sure, there are some things that we do not open. There are many things that we do not open, we do not entertain, we do not welcome. And that's quite a tight thing. And I've had no problems with any of those things coming there. There are different spaces for that. So I think what we have in that conviction or confidence, there's a trust, and then that adds to the group dynamic where people feel okay in the leadership, and then they feel safe to allow what needs to come, what can come, because it's not about denying negative feelings or it's like sometimes people are bothered by like somebody having a process in one side of the room or something like this, but if we have trust in where it's all going, if we see the vision, it starts to come like rain on a rain jacket. You stop worrying about that. It comes and it goes. You know that it's going to a good place. You start to celebrate it. You start to move it without getting stuck. So it's getting unstuck.
Yeah, that very beautifully said. I had to learn on my own not to take on energies, working with touch, like doing massage and acupuncture. I've, there's been times, and also working with medicines where I put a needle in someone's neck and their pain went into my neck instantly. I've worked on someone that was, had a lot of trauma, and I was trying so hard to help them, and I was just done for 48 hours, and I was down for the count, and I've had dreams that aren't mine. I've had someone's addiction go into me before, and you said the formula in different words, all the three things that's needed.
Yeah.
And it's presence, your breath, and the inner knowingness of like it's gonna be all good. And the way I word it is detachment from the outcome. It's just full trust that you're doing the right thing, you're doing it with a loving heart, and you don't become empathetic. You don't open yourself up to their trauma. You just trust that the right thing is going to happen. And you said that really beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Detachment from outcome. Yeah, I think sometimes when these things come, we hold too tightly to them, and then we subscribe and we identify with them. We wrap a story around them. Like some people, they come and a great sadness comes and hits them, and sure, it's our sadness. We look back, maybe there's a perfect reason you think of that. There's sometimes sadness comes and people say, where does it come from? What does it mean? When did it come from? Was it this age or this age? It can just be sadness. You can just be an instrument for the song of sadness to sing and feel its sweetness. And we sometimes are quick to hold on, address, identify with things. And so, like, if you're doing your healing work and like you feel that person's pain, it comes into you, and then you get afraid. Then the fear gets stuck, and then you start to identify with it. Say, now I have this thing, and how am I going to? It can become a big, elaborate story.
Yeah.
But if we drop it, if we don't give it a place to land, it keeps moving. The important thing is that it's moving. It's a subtle nuance, because at the same time, if somebody's stuff jumps into you, one, you say, oh, it's not mine, I don't have to hold it. On the other side, it's in me, so now it is mine. So now I also have to take responsibility for it. So it's both, and some people think it's one or the other. I think it's both. So one, it's not mine. I don't have to entertain it, let it land, fear it. I don't have to feel it. I don't have to believe it. But then on the other hand, I have to take responsibility for it. So how do I do that? I accept it. It's welcome. Like, if sadness, anger, if fear comes into me, I'm not, such a holy person that I say I shouldn't feel that emotion. It's not welcome here. It needs to go. I say, oh, yeah, for sure. You're a part of the story. You're a part of the full spectrum. Like, if I give you a place inside of my heart, when you welcome things, the things you welcome, they come with a different attitude.
Yeah. And welcoming acceptance is vital to healing and being able to process. If you don't accept something, then it's impossible to heal from it. It has to be accepted before it can be transmuted and processed, or else it's just going to be stuck inside the body.
Yeah, you're in conflict, you're in fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for the world? If you could share like one teaching with the world, what would it be?
That the thing that we're really looking for, the world is so messed up. It's terribly, disgustingly, disturbingly messed up in so many ways, but there's so much beauty. One of my favorite mantras of a poem, but the title is "Do Not Lose Faith in Humanity." I think it's especially pertinent right now in these times when there's so much divisiveness and so much polarization, so much confusion and so much corruption. To not lose faith in humanity. And that's not an easy task. But to sit with that statement, do not lose faith in humanity. The other mantra that I have had for many, many years is to have unshakable faith in the presence of love. Unshakable faith in the presence of love. Do not lose faith in humanity and have unshakable faith in the presence of love. And the last thing I say is that what we are looking for is what we are, and what we are has been here all along. You don't need to go and drink some fancy medicine. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to accumulate anything. You don't need any, certificate or the right earrings or the right hairstyle. What is most essential, and what all of the spiritual masters have told us is what we're looking for is what was there all along. When you take away everything, it's the natural state. And if we find the natural state of our being, comes with it happiness, peace, understanding, comes with it love, comes with it reconciliation. And to me, that is why the masters always repeat themselves. Who are you? Who am I? What are you? Where are you going? What is all of this? The path of inquiry. But to know thyself and to inquire deeply in that self, because it's the path to peace. And I think that path to peace in each individual is the way to end the war, because all of the war on earth starts within the individual. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But presence, unshakable faith in the presence of love. If you feel that, you can let that be your guide.
Do you have any tips on being present? Because it can be so hard to be present, especially now with social media just destroying our dopamine levels and our daily bandwidth. What is the secret to actually being able to be in a good posture and breathe and be connected with yourself instead of disconnected?
Simplicity.
Yeah.
We're very complicated. But presence, it's an endless contemplation. It's one of the most beautiful contemplations there is, because it's the presence of our life. And so the presence, it's a vibrational thing. We become aware of the sensations. If you become aware of the sensation of your body, if you become acutely very, very present with yourself, very present with what is, whether there's sadness there, whether there's pain there, whether there's joy, whatever is there, presence accepts. So you don't have to be in any certain place, to practice presence, to feel presence. And when you find your presence, you find it's always been there. The distraction has just been on top. So again, it's taking out what's being put on top to find what was underneath, what is the ground. So the presence is called the ground of being, a Christian mystic said. And so curiosity and simplicity, to rest in your nature as it is, without trying to change anything, without trying to do anything, without trying to fix anything, without trying to figure anything out. You stop all those things, you leave the past behind you, you leave the future where it is, and that's presence. And if you come to that place, nobody needs to teach you how to meditate. You just
You're
rest
already
in that
doing it.
presence. And then if somebody wants more inspiration on why to have curiosity and contemplation for presence, is that when you enter into this presence, the quickest way to get there is just to listen, to open your ears. To listen to everything. And if you get into that presence, you find that there's no one being present anymore. There's just presence. And that's touching the non-dual quality of presence. And this is what the Christian mystics would say, the practice of the presence of God. That when you enter into the perfect vibration of presence, you disappear like a wave in the sea, and all that is left is something that, we use the words divine, we use the words holy, we use these religious terminology, because that's what it is.
It's really beautiful. I feel more present just listening to you explain that, and felt my spine lengthen a little bit and my posture change.
Yes, you've got a good body awareness. So like for you, there's so much subtlety in micro movements and placement and alignment, and that's your doorway to presence. We have all the different doorways to presence. Mine is sometimes through my ears, through deep listening. Mine is in looking directly at the mind. So there's many doorways to presence. We all have a different temperament. So when you explain that, it's nice. I can feel that.
Yeah. I know I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'd love to ask one more question. So during ceremony, I've done about a handful before I came here, and I've never purged.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that I actually purged, and the only reason I had the opportunity and the blessing to be able to purge was because I was sitting up straight, because when I'm sitting down or in a bad posture, I keep the energy blocked in my body. It stays, and it won't go. I won't throw up, or I won't, I'm not releasing. But if I sit straight, and what I was doing was working through my neck and doing all this face yoga and just like stretching through this trauma that was in my jaw and my neck. And it was hurting so bad, but I was just like really working through it. Tears were coming out, and I wanted to stop so bad. but I was like, no, I'm not stopping. I'm pushing through this. And eventually it was so intense that I was getting nauseous and more nauseous, and I actually made myself throw up because of what I released. It like melted away. And then once the trauma melted away and released out my mouth a little bit, I had to run outside and I power puked in the garden. And it was like deeply healing because there was this stuff stuck in my neck for so long. So my question is like, how can we release this stuff that's stuck in our body, and not just like in ceremony, but in daily life?
And the first step is awareness. Just like we were talking about presence, if you get really, really present with yourself and you lose the distractions. So it's like you said, you were laying down and you're creating blockages. Distraction is it's a covering up, it's a masking. It is a blockage in itself. It's an avoidance strategy that we do to protect ourselves because we need to numb out because feeling things is hard, perhaps. I don't know. And so when you become present, like we were just talking, if you spend time being present, you think it's just going to be beautiful and love and peace. But when you become present and the water gets still, old things start to bubble up. Fear bubbles up, doubt bubbles up, not good enough, self-worth, anxiety, depression, grief, sadness, these things, they bubble up, pains bubble up. But you don't see them unless you're present. So when you get present, things start to come up. And so people think that, the spiritual paths are like a joyride, but they quite often, they get on it, It's like I see a lot of people, they go to some yoga classes, they do a bit of this and a bit of this, and then they go home and like change jobs and get a divorce and move to the other side of the world. Now they're in Guatemala and like, what just happened? Why? Like, how did that happen? And because when we get present, things start to bubble up, and the dissatisfaction doesn't rear its head. We become aware of how complacent and dissatisfied we've been. And so presence, things bubbling up, I'm talking about psychological things, but it's also physical things and things moving. It's like if you weren't present with that and following that and working with that and letting your hands be guided and feeling that, you wouldn't be able to track it, you wouldn't be able to follow it. You wouldn't even know that your intuition was there guiding you towards something. You'd just be sitting there hoping that it ends soon, waiting for it to go, wishing that you didn't do it, wishing that you went to Disneyland instead. But presence.
Presence, the secret to life.
So that's why I say presence is the medicine.
Presence is the medicine.
Presence is the real medicine, the medicine of presence. So people who are looking for visionary vegetables and psychedelic ceremonies and all sorts of spiritual seeking in all different directions, presence is the vehicle, presence is the path, and presence is the destination. And if you discover that, then you're already there.
Wow. Jaya, thank you so much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure to spend the last 5 days with you here doing the real work, watching you in your magic, doing your thing, and playing some of the most beautiful music I've heard that helped facilitate the releasing of so much, helped me and 25-ish other people do some really deep healing. And it's this work that I truly believe is what changes the world and makes the world a better place. So thank you so much for your time and the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely to have you.
Thanks, brother.